All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Eddie Live Podcast, episode number 308. We're going to learn about AI and education from the man, the founder of TopSchool.ai, Joseph Telfer. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Eddie. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man.
Love this place.
Thank you so much. It was pretty impressive when I met you last week, so I thought I got to get this guy on as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I thought I've got to eat some Mexican food, so...
Hey, as soon as possible, too, right? Beautiful, brother. Man, you've had a good week, I hear, yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds like so far so good, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a good week, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a huge topic right now. A lot of people are scared of AI coming through, the education system. I see, because I'm looking for it, I see some people doing things like yourself. Like in the States, there's people that are trying to use AI for teaching and stuff like that, which seems great. And then when I saw what you were doing, I just thought this is fantastic. So why don't you probably explain it better than I do? Tell me a little bit more about TopSchool.ai.
Yeah, sure. So TopSchool is a platform that helps teachers, students, and parents, let's say, coordinate the messy process of education.
Okay.
So if you think about a school and an education system, it's a collection of data and information.
Okay.
And every school is unique in what is the most important information. From the perspective of, if we're in Taiwan, it's the Taiwan National Education System, the curriculum.
Yeah.
If you're a Montessori school, then you're going to be following a Montessori system, so you're going to have resources and materials for that.
Yeah.
So essentially, all of that data that's specific to a school or a district or a group becomes a centralized AI model, and then the parent, the teacher, and the student access that AI model from their perspective.
Okay.
The system then, over time, learns more and more about that school, that teacher, that student, and therefore can support them in more personalized, more appropriate ways for what they need. And the outputs of that and the outcomes of that is what we'll be talking about today.
Beautiful. Okay. And I mean, this was your brainchild. This was your idea. Tell me kind of when you came up with this or how, what sparked this idea?
So I've been in education for about 10 plus years. I've been a classroom teacher. I taught in universities in London and then moved to Southeast Asia. And when I got there, I started applying some of my technical skills in the field of kind of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, pre-ChatGPT times.
Okay.
And we were running a consultancy at that point, a big data machine learning consultancy. And we realized that we needed more people on our team, but there were no talents in the market for that.
Yeah.
So we founded a machine learning data science school for this was in Cambodia, in Phnom Penh in Cambodia.
And this was pre-ChatGPT, you said. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And so we set that school up, and obviously, COVID was difficult because we opened our doors 10 days before COVID, so that was rather difficult.
I understand.
But we essentially set up that school to provide talent for ourselves and to provide talent to the marketplace as well. So working with banks and telcos and insurance firms. As that progressed onwards, we branched out into kind of more general digital education and started supporting, and COVID was part of that.
Sure.
And so one of the challenges was that we were sort of always having to reinvent new learning materials for different use cases.
Okay.
So when then ChatGPT, the models that we all know about, these, we can go back to the public release of ChatGPT, but that coincides with the Class 3 models.
Okay.
So when they released the Class 3 model was when they then released ChatGPT.
Okay.
Because GPT is just generative pre-trained. ChatGPT is a product that they made, and that's what went boom in late 2022.
Okay.
So at that time, then, we were fiddling and messing and trying to just sort of hack things together. And almost by accident, we kind of hacked together what our technical team would then call like a proto AI agent in Google Sheets.
Okay.
So our Google Sheet would send a message to ChatGPT or the API, retrieve the answer back, but then it would split that answer into 5 sections, let's say programmatically, use those 5 sections to send 5 more prompts back to GPT, bring back 5 from each of those prompts. So you'd go 1 prompt in, 5 out, 5 in, 25 out, 25 in, 125 out.
Okay.
So you would then rapidly create really specific learning materials, learning support, and it could be super specified.
Wow.
So we could say, we need a marketing course for a Mexican restaurant in Taipei for a junior marketer with a specialism in conversion of videos to menu bookings, to
Okay.
restaurant bookings.
Yes.
So we could then do that. Well, before we had this system, that would take us months, to talk
Sure.
to the client, think
Sure.
about it, go home, work out all the details of the course, put it together, cost us 15,000 US in labor time to put it all together.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're actually producing these materials in 5 seconds for 5 cents.
Amazing.
So we really realized at that point, wow, this has changed everything. Education has changed.
Yeah.
So that was the point we realized, okay, AI is going to smash into education, the operational side of education in a big way.
Yeah.
So that was when we made the decision, we'll be moving into this space. And then something quite interesting happened in terms of what we call PLY, Personalized Learning
Yes.
AI.
Yes.
The very first stuff that we put out there, kind of, you can call it MVP, minimum viable product, even proof of concept, very kind of hacked together, jaggedy kind of stuff. But users loved it. And I would talk to my tech team and I would say, hey, send me back, how did it go today? How did the users interact with the machine today?
Okay.
They would send that back to me and I would sit there reading. And then I would say, well, I can't read all of this. There's
Yeah.
thousands of words here across, 10 users today that have talked for an hour to the system. So then I gave it to, ChatGPT and I said, summarize this and help me understand what that learner struggled with today.
Okay.
When that happened, I then had this epiphany that, hang on, the AI can analyze its own interaction with a user,
Yep.
come up with the recommendations,
Yep.
and we already had a production machine built to build these personalized materials.
Okay.
So the only missing piece was take that need that user identified in their session, just feed it back into the beginning. And if you do that, then you can do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So today, what I don't understand, the system can understand, can see that I'm struggling with it,
Yeah.
reinvent the materials overnight, train itself on those materials, and deliver them to me tomorrow in that specified way for my challenge
For your
area.
learning. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that was what we called, when we realized that cycle could basically massively speed up the process of learning,
Yeah.
we called it auto-generative learning, AGL, a cycle of endless learning specific to that user's
Okay.
unique challenges and personalized to them, their interests, their preferences, their strengths.
Wow.
And then, we went from that kind of proof of concept into the rest of the journey to create TopSchool, which I can talk a bit more about later.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that was a lot what you just said. That so basically, you're able to personalize because every kid is different, right? Some kids, learn visually. Some learn by someone reading them the story. Some looking at the book, or whatever, right? So this way, it's able to sort of be customized for each individual kid.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So this, very opposite from the current, education system, right? There's, let's say, 30 kids in a class, and when you teach, you kind of got to, the middle 15, you're kind of teaching them, or maybe the middle 20 at best, right? The bottom 5, unfortunately, they're lost, or the top 5, unfortunately, are lost as well, right? So this is a way to customize for each individual kid, which is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, what you'll typically find in a classroom is, at best, you teach to the middle.
Yeah.
At worst, you teach to the bottom.
To the bottom, yeah.
Right? Sort of no kid left behind type way.
Yeah.
Or just, that you've got a bare minimum to do, and if it's that. So you're getting people bored at the other end, or left out at the other end. So that teaching to the middle is statistically an average, but it's actually just ignoring those two ends of the standard deviation curve.
100%, yes. So, wow. So where are you guys right now? So you went from Play to Top School.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe tell me a little bit about kind of like that jump.
So back in the start, we were looking at where this learning technology can work best. And there's a couple of things to that, right? Because learning doesn't stop in school, right? You and I are both probably studying something casually.
Always,
that lifelong learning thing. So there's corporate learning, there's casual learning, there's university learning, postgraduate learning, K-12 learning. And we started experimenting with Ply in different places, applying it in different ways and seeing where people found most value from it. Now, in corporate, they found tons of value. They loved it. But the buyers didn't. The buyers in the learning and development corporate area, they didn't love it so much. And I think it was just sort of years away for them.
Okay.
And when I looked at it and analyzed it, I thought, well, a lot of those corporate places have actually already outsourced the process of let's say, teaching. So they're not really struggling with the same things that say, a corporate provider, someone who provides training services to corporates. So we were in that space of, well, the users love it and they're asking for more, but the actual corporate itself isn't interested in doing these enterprise deals.
Gotcha.
So we wanted to look around and see where the best fit would be.
It's crazy, yeah.
And when we finally did then target to schools and start putting it in the hands of teachers in that primary or elementary and high school bracket, it just popped and went off on there.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that schools are learning institutions. That's all that they do.
Yeah.
Whereas in a lot of other applications, there's learning plus, the main thing in a corporate is selling that thing or selling this thing.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of like monetary value to, training so that they can upsell, let's say, a beer or whatever, right? Yeah. Understandable. Okay.
So learning there is more, it's not the thrust of what they do.
Okay.
Whereas in a school, from the second that everyone arrives in the morning till they go home, it's learning. How do we do it efficiently, effectively? So that's when we saw the real pop coming off on that, and we put that. So we were doing that testing around the start of last year, start of 2024. By around May last year, we said, okay, Ply is going to be delivered to the market through TopSchool.ai, the platform focusing on schools and teachers.
Yeah.
And we bought the brand to market around June, and then the first products hit the market in September.
Okay. So I'm guessing that you've had some teachers, use it, play with it. So kind of what's the reaction to that? Because anytime education and AI is put in the same sentence, it's either like, hey, this is great, we can, like you would say, like supercharge the teacher, or the other teachers will be like, oh no, it's going to replace us. It's going to be, you're teaching kids to be dumb and, use AI instead of their brains. So like kind of what was the reaction of teachers and stuff like that?
So there's part of an unknown here, where if a teacher doesn't know AI, let's say they don't know AI at all. I mean, that's rare these days, but there are still some. And there may be some casual users. That's always an interesting show of hands in the first session. Who's using ChatGPT every day? Who's using it every week? So the first thing is, I used it once. It didn't really work very well for me. I used ChatGPT and it just gave me a generic answer. And you think, okay, but you haven't seen what we do yet, And so there's a piece where we have to be able to show them what it can do.
Okay.
But that's quite a quick process for us. And when you do that, the eyes just pop and they go, wow. Because our system knows their school, their curriculum, their values, their philosophy. It knows what they're reading. It knows what Year 5 class is reading in Term 2 of summer term. And how that relates to the curriculum objectives, and how Johnny with dyslexia needs something different, and how Janine with autism needs something different again. So once they start to see that, that's like an epiphany. What they'll say to me is, Top School allows me to be the teacher that I've always known I could be. Okay. Which is super moving for us.
That's beautiful.
Right?
Okay.
We've always taken this position that teachers are phenomenal professionals.
Yes.
But imagine you train to be, I don't know, like a hat maker, right?
Yeah.
And you're a professional hat maker. You've gone to hat making school. Your dad was a hat maker. You're a very proud hat maker.
Yes.
But 50% of your day is paperwork, not hat making.
Yes.
It's annoying.
Oh,
right?
man, I have a business, I have a business here, and when you open your own business, you're like, hey, we started in a night market like 16, 17 years ago, and we thought, let's try it out, but then you got to get your license, and you got to do all this stuff, and then you've got to do marketing, and you've got to learn how to market, and you've got to learn how to do Facebook ads, and you've got to learn how to do all this stuff. Whereas when you started, you thought, I'm just going to make tacos and people will come. If you make them, people will come, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But you have to do so many things. Then you have to learn how to take food pictures right? And then Google reviews.
Yeah.
You get great reviews. You know, you thank people. You get a shitty review. You got to be like, oh, sorry. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen people, you know, restaurant owner friends of mine that are kind of new. And when they get a bad review, they just blast the person on their own like Google page. And I'm just like, okay, I'll like take a picture and I'll be like, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Because you look like an asshole now.
Exactly.
Now it's crazy. Now nobody wants to support you.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But all this, I think making food is, you've got to be a leader. There's just so many things.
Yeah.
I think making the food part is one of the easiest things and one of the things that you do the least in the end.
Yeah.
So similar thing.
And so here's the thing. We
Yeah.
never tell a teacher that we're going to eradicate part of their job.
Okay.
We are not in the market of, hey, don't worry, that's never going to be part of your day again.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
more, that takes you an hour. We're going to help you do it in 34 minutes. And it's going to be slightly better quality. And you can connect it to this other thing, which would have taken you 15 minutes, but will now take you 7.
Okay.
So we look at it as a model of co-intelligence.
Gotcha.
Right, so not AI, not human, but the working together. So Ply, actually, this is quite an interesting feature of our platform, is that Ply explains itself to the teacher in a from a pedagogical perspective.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we want the teacher to challenge it, to say, that's not my philosophy, that's not my pedagogy, that's not my reasoning.
Yep.
And then to have a tete-a-tete with the system. Does a system have a TET? Does AI have a TET?
You would know better than me. But no, I think that doing that improves the AI, right? I guess.
Yeah. Also,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. And it personalizes for specific teachers that
And it gets
teach a
better over
certain way.
time as well, right? Yeah.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
they're challenging it and they're working with it to improve it over time.
Okay.
So by providing teachers with that reasoning model, they become participants.
Okay.
And so our model is not to replace a teacher ever. And actually, you can't.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you're right.
There's a fundamental reason for that, is that we're apes, aren't we?
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
And the males of our species don't mature until they're 30.
100%.
Right? Maybe more.
maybe more, yeah.
Could be, right?
30's being kind, I think. Yeah.
The female's more like 20, 22, right?
Way earlier, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So you just cannot outsource the management and the training of our young, of our species,
Yeah.
to anything other than an adult human.
I agree.
You can augment that human, you can assist that human, you can make their day more efficient, you can make all the connections that produce the outputs in the day better.
Okay.
But you cannot and should not remove the teacher from that equation.
Okay.
So you do see, I think, a little North American approach more, where the North American thing is a bit at the moment like, oh, actually we don't even have teachers anymore. It's the students working with AI. I think that's more clickbait, to be honest.
Okay.
The data bears out a different story.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, if you put a young learner in front of an infinite machine, nothing happens. Because infinite is, in a sense, nothing.
Yep.
So what you need to do for a young learner is guide them, control them, constrain the edges, and give them a purpose. Go here, do this with AI, complete this, and finish.
Okay.
Whereas you and I, with our maturity and our solid academic background, we can probably be more purposeful in our use of AI.
Definitely, yeah.
But when a young person is using it, there's a lot more, the relationship is very different. And we'll talk maybe later about the emotional side that we see.
Well, if I use AI now, would be very different to 12-year-old me.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's similar to what you're saying, right? A 12-year-old version of me, with AI, which kind of is an infinite machine, right? I would have no idea what to do with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
And because, of course, the AI is a language machine, isn't it? So sort of your language in is part of the game of the language out, depending on the programming, right? But the way that students use it is super fascinating, and completely different from adults.
Beautiful. So how would Ply differ from just going ahead, paying the $20 and getting, just the regular chat GPT?
Yeah.
Or Gemini, or whatever, the Grok, or what are the other ones? So how would it kind of be different from that?
I think it's important to remember the guiding metric of the big AI houses, like what they aim for, what they're trying to achieve, what all of those billions of dollars pursue. And it's called alignment. And alignment is an AI word for it does what I wanted it to do.
Okay.
So if you want a recipe for tacos,
Yeah.
and it gives you a recipe for pasties,
Okay.
you say that's unaligned.
Yeah.
But it gives you a recipe for tacos, and you're like, perfect. If it gave you a recipe for tacos that had white radish in it, for example, you might be like, that's
Okay.
more aligned to me because I can get it, right?
Yeah,
I can go outside
It's
and
closer.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
So, because of this fact, the machine, the foundational technology machine, is a pleaser, a crowd pleaser, right? And we've seen that, I think, in the latest release. It's very sycophantic now, right? That if you, whoa, such a great idea
Yeah, I've
you've
seen
come
that.
up with, right?
Fantastic idea. This is what I got. Yeah.
And the reason for that is that makes the user more sticky, right? Because we love to be congratulated.
Yeah,
We just have a dopamine response to that.
Sure.
So it's a trick because they're using our drugs in our bodies to get us hooked on the platform, and this is age-old Silicon Valley stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is that an issue with in education, and how is TopSchool different from that? Well, if you're a young user and you say, what is 2 + 2? Now, a fully aligned system will say 4.
Okay.
If you say, what is the process of mitosis?
Okay.
Then an aligned system will think this user wants to know the process of mitosis, nothing else, and it will expertly give that definition. That's terrible for a young person.
Okay. Yeah.
Because giving a young person an answer does not engage the struggle of learning, which is that plasticity. That frustration of learning that's the plasticity of the young mind.
Understand.
Reaching, yearning, crunching, synthesizing, breaking, reforming, and building those neural pathways that you and I take for granted as having kind of fixed in.
Sure.
So the big risk is that if we now, as a global population, just say, sure, free for all, go for it, our young people will learn nothing. Because the shortcut will always be there. They'll never build those muscles that we've trained over many years. So TopSchool doesn't give answers to young people.
Gotcha. Okay.
It doesn't divert from the curriculum. As much as it might be nice to say, oh, let's have a holistic education where you learn everything and anything. Well, that's not good at exam time, is it?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Right? So a system that doesn't, we call it a Socratic system, right? So
Gotcha, yeah.
it's helping that student go back with another question. Tell me about the mitosis. That's interesting. Why are you asking? Because teacher told me to. Well, what's behind that? Why do you think teacher's asking you? I have to study it, and starting to actually get them engaged in a process of to and fro.
So it kind of like puts out little bits, encouraging the kids to think and then respond. Okay.
And also from that personalized basis, it might say, hey, you like Roblox, right? Yeah. Okay, well, here's how mitosis, let's explain mitosis through the lens of Roblox. Now, imagine a teacher thinking, oh, God, I've got to pause what is Roblox? They don't even know. Or Fortnite, right? Like,
exactly.
These kinds of youth things that teachers are pretty clueless on, well, the system just picks it up immediately. And that, as you mentioned earlier, every student's unique and looks at the world differently, right? So from that perspective, our system versus a ChatGPT. Now that said, if you had patience, you're a dad. If you had patience and $20 a month, you could configure the whole system, ChatGPT, and then give it to your daughter and say, "Here you go, Daddy's done it all for you. It should be fine."
Okay.
But if I'm $10 a month and you're $20 a month with all that effort, better to come to me, right?
Is that where? Is it possible for a non-school person, like okay, we're not quite there yet, but I told you before that. What's very interesting for me is that the Taiwanese school system, my daughter did that for elementary. We decided let's try junior high for a year. It's a lot of work, and she goes, she's got 12, 14-hour days with homework and all. It's a lot for a 12-year-old kid. It's way too much. When you tell other people here, it's normal. So everybody just says that's just how it is. It's normal. But with AI, with all this new stuff that's coming, I feel that if I let her just keep going through that, by the time she's just turned 13, by the time she's 18, she'll be ready for the world, 50 years ago or whatever, 30 years ago, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
how old, sorry?
She is 13.
13.
13. So she's,
The difficulty is she graduates at 20. 7 years from now, you can't call it.
You can't call it, yeah.
Yeah.
But there definitely will be AI that, you need to use it, right? So people, the funny thing is, I had a little podcast with her and we kind of told, kind of announced to everybody this is what we're going to do, this hybrid system. So I have sort of an English thing that we're going to do separately. So we want to keep the door for college open,
Yep.
right? Of course. Math and Chinese, she will still go to public school for because I don't want to touch that. I can't. I mean, math and my math is awful. Chinese, I can speak, but I'm not going to touch that. But the other stuff, I think we can do that, and so that's what we plan to do. So, would we be able to, with like sort of a hybrid-y homeschool person, be able to go in and use your platform?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to get you set up. We'll give you a platform.
Perfect.
And
Okay. Beautiful.
Eddie's homeschool.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be used
Okay.
like that. So we've got a parent-facing product,
Okay.
a student-facing product, and a teacher or a school teacher-facing product. But in your case,
Set me up an affiliate link too, and I'll start blasting it out. Yeah.
yeah. So it's really interesting, and the Taiwanese system is a really interesting one because it works.
Yeah.
Taiwan's got great, smart people coming out of their education system. Thing is, so do a lot of other countries have great, smart people.
Sure.
So it works, but it's not like it works to magnitudes more. Because you don't, for example, have a lineup of people and you say, there's a Singaporean, there's a Canadian, there's a Mexican, there's a Taiwanese,
Yeah.
and say, that Taiwanese must be so much smarter than the rest of them.
Okay.
Right? That's not what we think.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not borne out in my life at all. And I've worked with people from all over the world, right?
Yeah.
I wonder to what degree your entrepreneurial spirit is also guiding your confidence and belief in we're going to do it a different way.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a big part because I understand people would maybe want to do something like this, but mom and dad both work full-time jobs, and there's no one that can help to do that. Do you want another one?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can. Okay, what is this? Yes. One more coffee, yeah? One more, thanks. Yeah, so for me, like, let's say last summer we did, there's a beer festival every year here in Tiamu. So we did that, and we were short-staffed. So I said, okay. My daughter was 12. I said, okay, we're going to go do it. I'm going to do all the food. You're going to do all the... She was there, and she was like, oh, nervous. She's like, I don't want to do it. But she did great. Like, because she grew up in a restaurant, she's always used to talking and stuff like that. So she went out, and she was talking to people, and people were asking how much it was, and how much is 3 of this and 2 of that. We want 2 beers, and we want the special price, blah blah blah. She would deal with great customers. She would deal with shit customers, and she had to, right? So things like that we do a lot of here, and she also has a lot of ideas. I think because she grew up in this environment, she wants to try. Like she has her own YouTube channel, Roblox, a Roblox like live stream channel.
That's so cool.
And because we have all the gear, it costs us nothing to do, right?
Yeah.
We do that. She does a lot of different things, and a lot of these things are not measured in school, especially not in local school, right? And so she does okay in school. She likes it. The marks are not great, but it's because I believe she's just a bit burnt out. It's just too long.
It is.
And so, up until, so there's a funny story. When she was little, I was trying to, say, hey, because she was all basically glued to me from like age 1 to like age 5. And so she was like my shadow, and I brought her everywhere, and we did the kitchen stuff, we did everything. And then I'm like, okay, you got to go to school. And she was kind of like, I don't want to go to school. And I told her it's going to be fun. You're going to be your friends, lots of friends. It's going to be a great time, blah, blah, blah. So I really built it up. And then at lunchtime, on the first day of grade 1, I went to pick her up. All the other kids are like, yay. She comes out with kind of like an unhappy face. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, it's okay, go for it. So she comes out, and I'm like, what's going on? How was your first day of school, first half day of school? And she's like, you lied to me, Dad. Right? She's like, you lied to me. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you said you wouldn't lie to me, Dad. I'm like, okay, what did I lie about? She said, you go to school, you sit there, you're not allowed to talk, you have to ask to go to the bathroom, you can't do anything. You have to write until they say stop, and you have no right to do anything. And she's like 5,
Yeah.
and she's telling me you just have no choice to do anything. You just sit there. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of school. Yeah.
The problem is that when you went to school, what did your headmaster wear?
Oh, we just had like normal clothes, like regular clothes. There was no uniform. There was just
Okay.
Yeah.
My headmaster wore his gown
Okay.
when he
Wow.
would walk school, right? So
Okay.
his doctorate gown,
Okay.
as a sign of like,
Respect.
yeah, I'm
the
fear
man.
me,
Okay.
right? This is a Western school, right? Just in England.
Okay.
So
Wow.
the problem is that if a school is built on discipline, then a crack in discipline can become a fissure and can become a ravine and irreconcilable, unclosable at a certain point, especially in modern times where the youth, especially Taiwanese youth, are looking at their identity and more feeling more American,
Yes.
more Japanesey kind of cool.
Yeah.
Certainly not this like hardcore traditional Chinese
China, style
thing, right?
Yeah.
So the problem I think you've got is this increasing individualism and identity which can be expressed so massively through Roblox, through Fortnite, through YouTube, through TikTok, Insta, whatever it is, depending on the age bracket, and then a system that cannot risk allowing them to flourish and to be individual.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
if one goes, they all go, and then the system's out the window.
Yep.
So it's an interesting one. That's what I see in the Taiwan customers that we have. No one likes it, but everyone's too scared of what change would be, you know?
It's normal. It's just normal. Mom did it, dad did it, grandparents did
Yeah.
it. You just have to go to your 15-hour days of school, whereas adults work 8.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? I think European law would ban that.
It's crazy.
It's probably not legal in Europe to do that kind of
it's
thing.
crazy. And so, she has, the full day, which would be 7:30 to 4, and then 2 hours of homework, and then a test almost every day. So she's got to study for an hour for that. So we tried. I said, we'll do it for a year. We'll try it out. And I've been looking at the homeschooly stuff for a long time. But then there's the stigma of the homeschool weirdo, like the stereotype from back home. It's like, I've met a lot of the homeschool people here, and there's some weirdos in there for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what are we doing?
We're all a bit weird, aren't we?
But we're all a bit weird, right? So maybe I'm a weirdo as well. So it's tough. But what I see is, I think that, we can do something better. And I think with AI, it's really going to help a lot to fill in the gaps on the things like geography or history that I know, not much about. But you have this, like you said earlier, this infinite machine that has all the answers. You just have to, get them out a way where, kids can do it properly, I think. Yeah.
I think one challenge is that you got to think about an education system, not just teaching and learning.
Yeah.
So in Taiwan, the competition to get into the high school predetermines what university you'll get into, which predetermines which kind of internships that you'll get, which predetermines how your career will begin, which predetermines where you'll be 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So
12-year-olds are having to decide what they want to do when they're 30.
Well, they're not though, are they? Because
they're not. You're right.
they're not competent to do it, and you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
But B, it's that because we do a lot of research on this and ask, and especially when Americans run our research, young Americans that come over and help us, they'll talk about how they would go to a group of Taiwanese kids and say, hey, what do you want to, maybe they're 13 years old, 14 years old. Hey, what do you want to do when, what career do you want? What do you want to do? And they go, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So what interests you? What job? What career do you want? What pathway do you want to go down? What? I don't understand the question. And then it's you dig deep, and it's my mum and dad will tell me.
Yeah.
It's that it's still that tradition that's there. And I got 60-year-old Asian friends who are like, I was told, my dad told me what I would do.
Yeah.
Do you like being an accountant? It's not a question that I ask myself because I
Yeah.
never asked myself that question. Right? I
Yep.
did it, and that's my career that was chosen for me.
Yep.
So there are AI doesn't exist on its own. It exists within this cultural milieu of change that's happening anyway,
Okay.
and intersecting with our traditions, our values, our culture. And we have to ask ourselves questions about what we want to keep, what we want to cast away. And that's a tough question in the age of
for
AI.
sure, for
right?
sure. I'm learning that right now when I'm trying to make a schedule for the homeschool thing, the hybrid school. Because, like I said, I have a friend of mine who she does like this. It's not an IB, but it's sort of an English program where we got to keep the college door open, right? And then Chinese and math, public school. But then the rest, it's like whatever I want. So I kind of am. Should I make sure she learns the history of Taiwan, or the geography of the world, or whatever, or should I teach her Spanish, right? Or there's just so many options. So it's a little overwhelming.
Definitely,
honestly. It's
yeah.
definitely overwhelming because I don't remember anything from history that I learned in school. Geography I know from watching the World Cup my whole life. That's pretty much it. I coached football, soccer most of my life. Did that here, and I remember a similar thing where a kid would come in. It would be Saturday, 2 p.m. Kid would come in, and he's exhausted, and I'm just like, "What's going on? Why do you look so tired?" And he's like, "Well, because teacher, I've got at 8 o'clock I've got English, and then I've got piano, and then I got violin, and now I've got soccer, and then after soccer I've got German or something else, math or science or something." So even on the weekends, the kids are just like swamped.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Yeah.
If you look at Iceland, I think Norway, they've all taken this 4-day work week experiment and seen productivity go up, right?
Yeah.
So the theory then is that if we're looking at it like this, is that adults can't be productive working that many hours a day unless you're Elon Musk or something, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably wired anyway on something, right?
Yeah. He's got the Neuralink or something.
Yeah, that plus all sorts
the
of
alien stuff, whatever.
Yeah, he may well be an alien.
Alien technology or whatever somewhere. Yeah.
So why would we assume that a child is productive in learning at hour 14? That's strange.
For me, it doesn't make sense. But I think because nobody questions it, it's normal, blah, 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 it just keeps going. But I do see all the Scandinavian countries that are just like, 4-hour work, four-day work week. And, kids don't have tests until high school or whatever. I don't know. Like I've done a lot of research.
No
homework, right? So it's been, for me, I think it's something it needs to be looked at. And I know that, Asia is very traditional, so it's a tough change. I mean, what's your opinion on that? Will you be able to change? Do you think AI can help to improve this in Asia, or we need to start elsewhere? Or
I did want to comment on that as well.
Yeah.
It's not our role to change Asia.
Sure, yeah.
Or the reason we set up Top School was that we realized that each school and system is unique and special. So it's not our role to come in and say, hey, you guys, you're doing this wrong.
Understand that.
Our role is to come in and say, how can we help you? How can we help you do it better, easier, faster? Do you want enjoyment? And the answer might be no. The answer might be no. We run a tight ship here. It's all about discipline. We're a military. We feed the military. We have a military approach to things. Cool, great. Taiwan's military needs to be strong and disciplined. I'm not going to get in the way of that. So as a Westerner coming in, with a business in Asia, I never for a second push our ideas and our philosophies, Western, Greco-Roman concepts, individualism. When I compare schools that we work with in the West compared to schools here, a lot of teachers say to me, we've got to get student voice. How can we capture student voice? Help us capture student voice. Almost like customers, right? Like, how is the customer liking what we're doing? How do we figure out what the customer, the student wants? Taiwan, it's no. Not that we don't care. Don't even ask them. It's not, and that's not to say that Taiwanese youth don't have good ideas. They do. We've actually done the exercise and they have great ideas. It's just that that system is more about we tell you what to do, and that's not going to change just because AI's come along.
Okay.
And again, Taiwan's produced amazing people and
for sure.
smart people, and the system works. It is what it is. So we're not here to change it. If AI in general changes Asian education systems, great, we'll be part of that too. But we will be guided and steered by our users or by the guardians of our users. Because again, these are young people, and we work with them by virtue of the permission granted to us by the school leaders.
Okay. Yeah, no, when I was asking, I didn't want to say that, we were trying to come and impose, we're taking over, you have to do things our way. That's not what, what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is like, because the mindset, like for example, back home, Canada, US, the UK, they try to encourage individuality, whereas here it's kind of like, this is the box, this is the door you go through.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I mean, I have an opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
I think
Let's have
that Taiwan has wonderfully positioned itself for the next 50 years as a global, as an international place. It's trying really hard to do that, and I think it's making good progress on that. I'm a honored, I'm a very grateful guest in the country, based on their plans for the future. They're looking for kind of AI talents and digital talents.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased to be here and working with great Taiwanese people as well. But I hope and think that the world is enriched when we borrow the best from each other. So, for example, definitely England especially could really benefit from a bit of Taiwanese respect. Right? It's massively lacking in our cultures.
100%. Yeah.
I would argue that a bit more project-based learning, entrepreneurial activity would serve Taiwanese youth in school very, very well because of what they're going to graduate into. Side hustles are going to be ubiquitous. It's not common now that a person has one job, especially a young person. The number one, what's the number one desired job for youth?
Well, they either it's a YouTuber.
That's it.
Right? They want to be a YouTuber. And it's funny because I have, with this interview, with this platform, I've got to interview a lot of big YouTubers, and they're also like, it's still work. It's still a full-time job. They have to, decide their video script and then do the hook and all that stuff. And then make the video, edit it, put your subtitles on it, make sure everything, cross all, the T's, dot all the I's, make sure it's good. And then you put it out with a nice headline and a nice thumbnail, all that stuff. Then you put it out. And then, okay, what's the next video? So it's also tough. It's also tough, yeah. But that's definitely what most of the kids want to do. Or one of the other popular ones that's slowly fading away, I think, is like a coffee shop. A lot of people want to do their own kind of that's why we started this. My wife wanted to do a coffee shop, and at that time I thought there was too many coffee shops. Lo and behold, there's like 10x more now, and they all seem to be busy. But I thought, well, there's no Mexican restaurants, so she's had my family's food. I said, maybe we can try this. If it goes, that's good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. You got to try. You fail. It is what it is, right? So that's another thing also that I want to do with my daughter. We've got a lot of little ideas that she wants to try, and those are going to be like big projects. There's a couple of small website things that she wants to do, and worst case scenario, she learns how to build a website. She makes $0 on it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And the thing is, the kids are doing this at home anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the crazy thing for me, is the Taiwanese kids as well are engaging in all this stuff separately outside. They're doing 14 hours, and then at home they're doing another 2, 3.
Something they like.
Self-directed.
Yeah.
They're watching videos. They're building things, whether they're digital things or physical things. So I don't know. I think I have a soft spot where I want them to be happy, and I again, an opinion. I believe we learn best when we're in a positive mental state, and I haven't met a student yet in a positive mental state.
It's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, again, like I was telling you, the end of that story was when I asked that kid, I'm like, piano, violin, German, whatever. Do you enjoy that? Do you like that? And it's like what you said. They had no response. Like, what do you mean, do I like it? It's just what you do. It's what you have to do. Mom says, go to a piano, you have to. I'm like, do you like piano? They're like, there's no like, don't like. It's just Okay,
Yeah.
now it's time for piano. So that was, it's funny because that was about 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. And it's funny because now I had such a good relationship with these kids. Now I get invited to their weddings. They were elementary kids. Some of them were kindergarten. Now I get invited to their weddings. They come here. They show me
Amazing.
their babies and their wives and stuff.
Beautiful.
It's crazy. Makes you feel old, but it's also a cool thing where these kids that you coached for 2 or 3 years, and you were like their hero. They still come back, and they come and they bring their families, and everybody comes and eats.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. It's cool. It's very cool. So I had pretty happy to have had a good impact, positive
And that's
impact
it.
on these kids.
That's what I think is so special about this
Yeah.
sector,
Yeah.
educational coaching is
Yeah.
that the effort in reverberates for years in the life of someone else.
Yeah.
And if we can somehow get that essence into the system, into play,
so. Yeah.
then for me that means that the hands-off impact is magnitudes bigger. They might never know that me and the team are they might never come to us and say, oh, here's my baby, but knowing that's what the potential is.
Yes.
And again, then navigating the politics of it. Because schools are political places. They're organizations. All organizations have a little bit of politics in them.
Of course, sure.
But schools have, especially, there's hierarchies, there's discipline.
Yeah.
So I want to positively impact that child, that class, this school. Okay, how are we going to do it? It's not just a case of the software's great, hope you enjoy it and use it. It's navigating that process, which is the more complex part.
Okay. And so have you developed like any partnerships with any local schools, or is that kind of in the works? Do you have something like that going?
We've got
I
schools
think you
in
did,
Taipei.
right? So tell me about that, please.
We've got schools in Taipei, schools in Taichung. We're talking to schools in Hsinchu as well, both public and private,
Nice.
which is really interesting because they are polar opposites from what we've been talking about, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
I would say that the international schools, some of them are like hella international, right? They're
Yes.
super mixed nationalities. And then you've got the more kind of bilingual private schools,
I
which
know
are
those.
like 95% Taiwanese and a little bit mixed. So I like those because they're good examples of a sort of hybrid approach.
Okay.
It might even be where they split the day in half, right? You've got kind of Confucian style rote learning. We call it sage on the stage, right? The wise master standing at the front with a stick, pointing at Bupamafa symbols and memorize
Repeat,
this.
memorize, do.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because memorization has such low value now, right? In a world of ubiquitous information, memorization is the lowest skill that you need. Critical thinking, the thing that's not celebrated, is the highest skill required.
Yeah.
I think pretty much agreed by. I think we have to look at trend lines.
Yes.
And think what does your daughter, what work situation will your daughter be in 15 years from now, 20 years from now?
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, will critical thinking be important in that role? And I think the answer there is absolutely.
Always.
Right? So, and we should be planning education systems now for 15 years' time.
Agree.
But who's gonna put their name to what the world will look like in 15 years?
True. True.
Too difficult.
I think you nailed that one. A lot of the soft skills that are not really celebrated are super important, and I think with AI and technology, they'll be even more important in the future. For example, let's say my daughter, the marks at school, they're not that great, but she's popular, she's well liked. Communication skills are. I mean, she grew up in a restaurant, right? Like she sees. I remember there's this one time she was having like a little tea party. She was like 3 or 4 with kids, all these little girls, imaginary tea sets, right? She was kind of like, girls like, oh, this for daddy or for mommy, blah, blah, blah. And my daughter, she was just kind of like, she's, tilting the cup. She's like, and she's like, oh, this one's for daddy. This one's for, fill up the customer. This one's for daddy. And all the little kids were just like, what is that? And she's like, Dad drink beer. Like that, beers are for Dad, because she grew up in a restaurant where everyone's drinking beer, right? And she would see principals and professors and respected people kind of, let their hair down and have a beer and swear here and there and just kind of like be a regular person. So she sees all that kind of behind the scenes stuff where most kids, I guess, don't.
Yeah.
So she kind of has, the communications and stuff like that. Again, that's hard to measure, but because she's in this industry, yeah, she's quite good at that. And it's funny because a lot of kids will like never see that, but she's seen that from like age 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, she's already got her own
Yeah.
YouTube channel. It'll be one of those because again, a lot of the did you go to a uni in Canada?
I did. Yeah. Not a great one. I mean, just
No, but this is exactly the point that I'm making,
yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
like we do GCSEs in UK, right? And you sweat and you panic and you worry about GCSEs, and you've got that schedule of grades that you got from it, and you think, oh my God, I'm not going to get into the college or the university that I wanted to. And then you get into some uni, and then you get your grade there, and you get your first job, and then you get your second job, and then no one cares about what you did at school at all.
I'm really glad that you said that because it's tough because so many people are like, oh, she's got to get into, how is she, if you do the hybrid thing, how is she going to get into a good university? And these are like usually friends and customers, and I can't really say that doesn't mean anything. As soon as you get into the job you want, if you look at somebody who's got like 5 years experience on the job, or like that is more valuable, right? And I don't know. I guess I am a weirdo, but I see that. But because I have a business, I think I see that. But a lot of people maybe that don't. They feel like maybe you've got this degree from this high school that it's great. So one of the first jobs I had, it's funny. First job, not the first, but one of the first. I was teaching English, teaching kindergarten. They have a new teacher, and they're like, hey, we have a new teacher, you have to train her. So I'm training this girl, right? All that stuff, all the kindergarten stuff. And so, it was lunchtime, and we went out for lunch and we're having coffee. I'm like, okay, well, tell me about yourself. And she's like, well, she graduated from Cornell University with early childhood education. And I'm like, why the hell am I teaching you where I barely graduated high school and I did my university stuff, but I'm just on the job training. Yeah. And it's like, I'm teaching this person who was accepted into like Harvard, but she chose Cornell. And I'm training her how to teach kindergarten in Taiwan, which is crazy. Yeah. Right. But then, that was kind of a moment for me. I'm like, oh, okay, the school was like, hey, you know what you're doing. Show her what to do.
Well, I think there's a couple of things at play. One is that the idea that everyone should go to university makes sense on paper, but not in practice, I think. Yeah. Because in practice, what that means is you first of all, you just swell your economy with substandard universities that charge what they charge.
In the US, it's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Canada's expensive. I don't know about the UK, but the US, from what I talk to customers, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And advising people to go into that much debt as the very first thing that they ever do with their life is a strange approach as well. Yeah. And again, it's if everyone goes to university, does that mean that there are jobs for everyone at university level?
Exactly.
And I think many people could spend that time training vocationally or doing self-direction, starting a business. If you're going to spend $100,000 on an education, go to a business that you admire, a CEO that you admire, a job that you admire, and tell them, hey, if I give you $100,000, can I turn up here to work every day for 3 years, and every year give me a promotion?
Yes. Exactly.
Be like, you're going to pay me $100,000?
Exactly.
You're going to learn way more like that.
Way more.
That's not to say that university isn't a sort of rite of passage.
Understand, of course.
But I think, again, these are old ideas. The idea of school, high school, we call it college in the UK, and then university after college.
We call it college in Canada too. Yeah.
So I think these are often people say that education is a fortress, right? And what they mean by that is that it's guarded. And
Yeah.
the Western system, at the very least, comes from the Prussian Empire. If you knew
Okay.
that about our system in Canada and the UK.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It comes from Prussia needing to march boys to war. So that rote learning, that discipline that I say you do, comes from a very old idea of we need a populace that will do what we say when we say it.
Okay.
And we still really essentially operate an educational system like that. And it's creaking. It's creaking at the edges. And a lot of the more courageous, I think, that are prepared to say AI is probably the shake to bring the walls down.
I agree. And I think because people, they don't really know, like they're following the rules, but everybody kind of knows something's off. It's just like The Matrix, like that movie, right? People are kind of like, something's off, but the more you realize that, it's a tough thing to put into words. But I think that with people, when they have access to, again, like you said earlier, that infinite machine of information, they will see, like, it doesn't really make sense for me to go and do that stuff.
Yeah.
I think, anyways. Yeah.
And look, you're just a number, right? You and
Yeah.
your wife are just a number. You, your wife, and your daughter, you're just a number.
Sure.
But you're a growing number. And as that number grows and grows and grows, the system starts to. Already, we're seeing school closures in Taiwan, right? Because of population.
Low population. Yeah.
And as that continues to happen, the system has to at some point say what's going on here, right? And that trend is becoming a macro thing. We're seeing a lot more micro schools where maybe a cul-de-sac says, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm a trained educator. I'm a stay-at-home mom, a trained educator.
Yeah.
And if you guys are paying this much or going through this much stress to go there, I'll do it for X amount, and I'll take care of the kids every day.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it again because of ubiquitous information.
Yeah.
And a system like TopSchool, right? We could power a cul-de-sac school at national level education system,
Beautiful.
right? And it would cost $1,000 a year.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which
right?
is crazy. So let's go back to that a little bit because we're getting close to the hour. So how can people get involved, like find TopSchool?
So TopSchool.ai is
Okay.
our website. If you're a school or a teacher, just reach out. There's forms on the page where you can get in touch with us, and we'll come and talk to you. For us, we don't just dump you into the platform and say have fun, good luck with it, and we'll talk to you later. It's more about understanding, can we impact positively you, your school, and that's a conversation, and an analysis. And if there's agreement, then we can move forward with a project together. If you're a parent, best thing to do is go to the website and fill out the form. That product is coming soon, so we're working with some parents early on just testing the models and getting things out there.
Yeah.
So go to the website, find the form, and you'll be the first to be offered the product, probably with a discount as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you guys ever need like a guinea pig, it's the right time for us, man.
And yeah,
It's
let's.
a good time for
we
us.
haven't got it now, but when this broadcast, let's say that Eddie.
Let's go.
Eddie123 is a discount code that we'll give all
Perfect.
your listeners if they're parents and they want to use the platform.
That'd be great. And if you guys are watching this kind of in the future, that will be linked below.
Yeah, we'll
but
add
for
it
now,
there.
we'll have TopSchool.ai, and the Ply is already integrated into that, right?
Yeah,
So it's all
absolutely.
one thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not two different packages.
No, it's all there. It's
Okay.
just the parents. It's not a public product yet. It's just in beta, closed beta. So
Beautiful.
coming soon. Hopefully for the new semester, parents
Okay.
will be able to enjoy that, and that'll mean easier calendar management, managing clubs and schedules and
great.
extra work. Managing positive mental health in your child, which is a huge problem now.
That's another hour to talk, I think.
Right. Next time.
Yeah, next time.
But yeah, loads of cool stuff, which just puts you in control of the learning and safety of your child in a learning environment. So that would be my number one thing if I want to advise the guys out there who are parents is. You can see and sense that AI is a really powerful tool to help your child learn.
Yeah.
Work with Top Parent, work with us at Top School, and that'll be great. We'll do we'll provide something great to you come September this year. So get in touch and get on the list. But in the meantime, or alternatively, all I would suggest is if you've got a pro account on ChatGPT, go and create yourself a mini GPT. Right, you can go there and you click create,
Yeah.
and just in there, tell it, do not give this. I'm designing you for my kid.
Yeah.
I want them to learn. Do not give them answers.
Okay.
Don't talk about inappropriate subjects. Blah blah blah. And
Gotcha.
for now the theme is going to be, I don't know, biology, whatever
Okay.
it is. Just lock it down and make it Socratic, and you
Okay.
will immediately have this great benefit that comes to your child.
Okay.
And what's really cool about AI is it's generally safer than the internet, because
Okay.
it has much stronger guardrails, whereas the internet is wild west, right?
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Amazing, man. Thank you for coming, brother.
Thank you.
I'll take
Love
one
it.
of these as well, because that's
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you guys for watching. The links will be in the description below here. Don't forget to follow TopSchool.ai. Everywhere, right? We'll have the Instagram and all that
Insta
stuff. Yeah.
and LinkedIn, everything. Yeah.
All the links will be down here below. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you everybody for watching Eddie's show. We feel only happiness, don't feel any sorrow. Welcome everybody to watch more on his content. Eddie Live Podcast. Eddie Live Podcast.